Good morning and welcome to Talkback on 4CRB. Our number's 55208888, and you'll be talking today with Ray Stevens, the member for Mermaid, as we discuss state issues. And we do welcome your calls. Take advantage of the opportunity to discuss, comment, argue with, critique the member for Mermaid while he's here. 55208888. Welcome, Ray. Nice to have you along.
Good morning, Russ. Good morning, listeners. Nice to be here.
Since last we spoke, of course, the state budget was announced, and the announcement of the budget and the opposition's reply more or less set the battleground for the inevitable election later in the year. So, what's your call on it?
Yes, Russ. The election is state elections on October the 26th. And the budget that was brought down by this current Labor government was very much a sugar hit budget for trying to win back the people that they've lost over the last 3.5 years in terms of giving them little sweeteners, if you like, 50-cent rail fares, $100 off their electricity, $1,000 off their electricity bill. These sorts of little sugar hits will end up costing Queensland taxpayers money through the budget. In fact, the $2.5 billion, which is a serious amount of money, it's enough to build the stadium that they said they couldn't afford. Those sorts of costs will come back onto Queensland taxpayers by increased charges if the Labor government is re-elected. We certainly, it's 4 months out from an election, and they talked about a big $1 billion spend on a hydro plant up at Mackay. These sorts of things are embarrassing in terms the State Treasurer said, please forget about the last 9 years of our performance.
A bold challenge.
A very bold statement, and trust us with the next 4 years. Well, I don't believe for 1 second that Queenslanders will be fooled by that. I mean, this is a time to judge the current government on their past record over the last almost 10 years, and to put them in charge for another 4 years would be a very great risk to the Queensland economy. The big issues of cost of living, which is front and centre of everyone's mind, including the federal government. The youth crime that hasn't stopped. You see it nightly on the news. And also the broken health system, which they admit is broken, and they keep throwing more money at it and calling it a record health spend. Well, it is every year because Queensland grows exponentially every year with the mass migration that we have, but they have failed to, account for that, and basically we suffer the pain of their cost of living crisis. And out there in people trying to rent these days, it's just a nightmare. The housing crisis, we've got people on the streets, people living in cars, and they've failed to address any of these issues, so they should be judged on their past 9 years, and hopefully Queenslanders on October the 26th will judge them on that past record. Leopards don't change their spots.
55208888 for you to have your say on state matters as we chat with Ray Stevens. Of course, there is probably somebody even listening right now saying, oh, yeah, it's easy for the opposition to be critical. So the next question is, what would you do about it?
Well, for a starter, one of the big issues that I just mentioned then was in relation to the housing crisis that we have. And it's just a tragedy to see people in tents, people living in cars, all of these sorts of issues, because this government has failed to plan for the mass migration of people into Queensland. They've accepted all the extra funds. They've got about $17 billion over the last few years out of stamp duty on houses. They've collected enormous GST returns, and coal royalties have been through the roof. So basically there's been a lot of money, but it's been wasted on white elephants, such as the Wellcamp quarantine centre, those sorts of things, the blowout on the Cross River Rail, the blowout on the light rail down here on the Gold Coast, and the blowout on the Coomera Connector already. So what we have done for housing is we've put forward a very, very strong policy for young people, and that's been the big concern. Young people haven't been able to get into the housing market. We put a very, very strong policy out there. We're going to abolish stamp duty completely for young people buying their first home. So that saves them a lot of money, particularly when the house prices are getting up around the $700,000 and $800,000. Certainly, we're also looking at the fact that young people that buy these houses will be able to rent the rooms out to assist with the mortgage payments, and not lose their bonuses and benefits from the government on the housing assistance. So those are sort of major issues. One of the biggest issues is planning for more houses for more people, and that's what this government has failed to do. So we'll immediately put in place a department bringing all the relevant ministers together that are involved in the housing approval process, and make sure that there are timelines for timely approvals. Looking at putting in a $2 billion, infrastructure fund for the the necessary infrastructure to go with development, such as water and sewerage issues. So to fast track more housing for Queenslanders, and also in the planning scheme, make sure that we work with councils, not against councils, to make sure that their housing plans fit with the rapid growth of Queensland, particularly in those high growth areas.
55208888. Remember, time running out as the show progresses, so do have your say and chat with Ray while he's with us. 55208888. The budget was not without a challenge to the opposition, because the Treasurer was pretty firm in his commitment to stage 4 of the light rail, and this was shortly after Jared Blay had been down here to tell us that your side of politics would have a review or re-look at that. Now, is that still a live issue?
It's very much a live issue, and basically in terms of the Treasurer's commitment, there is no funding, none, available for Light Rail 4 in the state Queensland budget. None. And there is no federal money in the Albanese budget for Light Rail 4. The approximate costs now, and they're pretty good at blowouts, but they're telling us it could cost $7.6 billion. That's a lot of money to go from Burleigh, where it's budgeted for and will arrive there at the end of 2025. But to go further to the airport is because we've got a couple of creeks to go across, $7.6 billion, and of that, 55% of that funding, somewhere between $3 and $4 billion, will have to come from the federal government, and then the state government has made no allocation whatsoever in their budgetary papers for Light Rail 4. So what they'll be hoping, of course, is that the Light Rail 4 commitments will go away, and it'll come on us, perhaps as a new government, to deal with the matter. But we've committed to re-looking at the project to see if that's the best use of the money and if that's the best route to take. We haven't cancelled anything. We haven't approved anything. What we're saying is it needs a proper look at before we go ahead and commit to billions of dollars that taxpayers will have to front up for this particular part of the project.
Well, we have a caller for you. It's Graham on the line to have a chat with you, Ray. Hello, Graham.
Good morning, Graham.
A capital gains tax on renting a room in the house in lieu of down the track. What's the government situation going to be with that? It's all right renting the room and getting the money. Is that going to be part thereof of a minus for the person when they sell the house eventually?
Well, capital gains obviously comes through the federal government in terms of their taxation regime. I would think that any arrangements that are between the young householder and the people that they're renting would be a matter for them to declare and bring forward as part of their income earning. That will be a matter for the individual homeowner, if you like, to declare that to the taxation department. It will be subject to normal income taxation rather than a capital gains, I would have thought. The capital gains applies to the sale of assets, obviously, and but this would be an income stream to support the mortgage payments that a young home owner would have to make, a first home owner.
Yeah, Ray, with all right, the inflation of property and what have you going up. Look, I'm 84, I'm retired, I'm a multi-millionaire, all right?
Yes.
And I go right down the track on every angle I can possibly get. I've been retired only 34 years. I don't know anything, Ray. All right.
Yeah,
but I tell you what,
Graham.
as you get older, and this is you as well, my boy. When you if and when you close your super fund down, you know there's nothing else but 30% tax on your income, so you can get your estate organised. There's things like this that don't come to light. How about the seniors? It's 80-20 on the Gold Coast. Well, might be 70-30 for seniors on the Gold Coast. There's a hell of a lot of us, Ray, that
Yes.
don't even think about what I'm talking about. So the capital gains tax on you renting a room, it's got to be defined. That's all very well to go down that track in regards to the parties that are out there trying to stay in front. But the people just want the honesty and the straightforward talking and the follow through of anything that they're saying, and that is, you know, like 84, Ray. I've seen it for year after year after year, and you weren't far off the track in saying the party that's in at present, they're not following through either.
Well, thanks very much indeed for your call, Graham, and I think that Ray will take that on board. But, of course, the capital tax is, of course, under the federal jurisdiction and would naturally, of course, cut in on the offer that you're making for the young people in their homes. Halfway through the program, 55208888 to have a chat with Ray, with the emphasis today on the focus on state issue. Got another caller coming in for you right now, Ray.
Good morning, Kate. Hello, Kate. Kate?
We'll get Kate. Here she is.
Hello, Kate.
We're not using the Pinkenbar complex that was built for the
Quarantine, yes. Yeah, sorry, Kate, I missed the first part of your statement. I'm sorry about that.
I just said I'm very curious as to why we are not using it for all of these homeless people.
Yeah, but
surely, I know perhaps it's not up to scratch, but surely it would be cheaper to put things in there, and if we were going to put people there for the pandemic, that must be workable.
Kate, you're spot on there in terms of that big centre at Pinkenbar. I haven't actually visited there, but when the Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner said he would put money into relocating people to that facility, and that was rejected by the current state government, and they basically said it wasn't up to scratch. But anything's got to be better than a car living in or a tent in a park.
Oh, my goodness.
So
yeah.
I share your views on that one. And the other one that was ridiculous in terms of Labor government waste was
don't talk about that one.
The Well Camp one, which just sat there, and then they gave it back to the Wagner family after costing millions of dollars.
Somewhere.
Yeah, Kate. So
there was a deal somewhere there.
Well, there could have been,
in
Kate.
a paper bag.
There could have been, Kate. You might be right there. Thank you for calling.
Right ideas coming from outside, which is good. 55208888. You've still got time to have a chat with Ray whilst he's with us today. 55208888. We were talking about the light rail. Of course, it cuts right through your electorate
At the moment, yes.
Yeah, and at the present time, the traffic disruption seems to be more than was anticipated. What's going on?
That's correct, Russ. And I've done a walk around with a lot of the businesses along the light rail route in Miami, Nobby, and certainly in Mermaid Beach there, that particular area. And, it's been a tragedy as to what's happened to the local businesses in that area because of the light rail construction. Now, we all understood that the light rail was going ahead, and it would be a very, very inconvenient and devastating type of result on the businesses of those while it was being built. However, the original promises for the construction was that it was going to be done in modules, and in other words, you annoy all the people in Nobby Beach. You finish there, you move to Miami, to Mermaid Beach. But the construction people haven't done that under their own contract, which is government supervised, of course. and they've just done the whole route all the way through to Burleigh, and that will continue until the end of 2025, not the end of this year, the end of 2025. So it's going to be absolutely crippling for the businesses around those areas. In fact, in door knocking, if you like, the businesses around the Miami industrial area there the week before last, before Parliament, the people down there were saying not only that the council's doing a lot of roadworks in the area, and between the council workers and the construction workers, they're just ruining all the car parking for their customers and also for their employees, and then they're coming around, the council is coming around and fining everybody involved in the area. So I've requested the local councillor to try and get the council officers to, stop fining everybody down in the particular area while this demand on parking areas is down there for the construction workers. But the impact on these businesses is just crippling, and unfortunately it's going to go for quite a long, long time. So, hopefully we might be able to get in and deal with the construction people to get some areas done quickly and then move on to the next area, so to minimise the impact for the shortest possible time. Never mind what suits the construction agency in terms of their costing of the matters, and the government particularly costing of these matters, but you have to take into account this is just sending people into bankruptcy, closing businesses, and it's quite, I don't believe Southport and Surfaces have ever really recovered from the light rail construction in those areas. So that's another area in the light rail construction which is 85% in my electorate, this light rail 3, and it's been an absolute nightmare for the people living and working in the area. And I met with residents down there the other day, a guy that lives on the highway. As you know, we've seen a lot of building on the highway now because they're upping densities, if you like, along the light rail route. That's been part of the reason for the light rail being put in place, and a young father and his couple of little kids couldn't get any sleep as the construction work heading all through the night. So these are the issues that need to be managed and looked after, and hopefully in government we'll be able to lobby on their behalf to get something realistically happening for them in those areas.
And we have a caller for you coming in right now, and it's Trish on the line. Go ahead, Trish.
Good morning, Trish.
Good morning, Ray. I was just wondering, is there any news on the 705 bus calling into the casino the way it did in the past, before COVID, to let all the old people off? Yesterday, I took an 88-year-old friend of mine to see the movie there.
Yeah.
And, she was practically a nervous wreck by the time we got to the top of the hill. And so when I heard you come on again this morning, I thought, I'll ring up and just ask you if you've got any news. Because the bus stop's still there. It's just the buses are bypassing it.
Trish, I was told when I chased this down for you last time by the bus company that when the construction had finished at the casino, then the bus would resume. So I'll follow that up. I'll follow that up again.
Right.
The construction is still going ahead, I think. I was over there for a property council meeting.
Anything in the area of the bus stop, which is out the front entrance, that's finished quite a while back, a few months ago.
Yeah, so I'll follow that up for you, Trish, and get back to you on the matter.
Thanks very much, Ray.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Still time to get into the show and chat with Ray. 55208888 is the number. And, Ray, the Olympic Games 2032, now, it involves the Gold Coast. What benefit will it bring us?
Well, unfortunately, the whole planning and matters that should be put in place for the Olympic Games 2032 have been lagging behind, sadly, with the current Labor government. Now, should we become the government on October 26, our leader, David Crisafulli, has promised that within 100 days he would set up a independent body to do the planning and make things happen, because basically, it was sort of 8 years out now from the Olympic Games, not far from Paris shortly. Then we have to get going on putting the infrastructure in that's required so that this is a world event. It will put the focus on Queensland, Brisbane, and particularly on the Gold Coast. I was just thinking the other day, wouldn't it be great to see the Olympic Games marathon running up and down the Gold Coast and sending those visions of the fabulous Gold Coast right across the world. So that would be wonderful for the Gold Coast tourism. So yes, the Gold Coast will benefit greatly by the Olympic Games being on the world stage with the 2032 Olympic Games. It's a great cost, as we know, to the taxpayers of Australia and Queensland, but we are hoping that it will be an enormous success, put in place properly with proper games infrastructure and facility built and ready for the 32 games. And I am confident that we can do that with a new independent body that doesn't play politics with the decisions that need to be made to put on a fantastic Olympic Games, as Sydney did in the year 2000. They left it over to the private sector to do the planning. A fellow called Rod McGeoch ran it down there and did a wonderful job, so that the Olympic Games went off as what they say the best ever Olympic Games.
Indeed, yes.
So we are hoping that the right people in place, given the right parameters to operate in, will deliver all the infrastructure that's necessary, all the programs, and that will include transport and those sorts of issues that will include the Gold Coast, for instance, the highway. I mean, you can't have athletes stuck on the Gold Coast highway, these types of things. We've got 9 events of the Olympic Games, I believe, being held here on the Gold Coast. So it is very, very important that we all get behind the Olympic Games. I mean, it is a big expense, and cost of living issues are front and centre for everybody at the moment, but the reality is this is an investment in our longer-term future of putting Queensland and the Gold Coast on the world stage.
And a little time up our sleeve before we wrap up the show, Ray. We discussed at the commencement that, of course, the budget that was announced was virtually a trigger for the election. Now, this could turn up some odd results. For example, we've been discussing about 2 major parties, but the Greens are in there getting up a head of steam. How do you figure they'll play a role in the upcoming election?
Well, the Greens have done very well in the past. They're a party that actually know that they will never be in government to make absolutely hard decisions or make any planning decisions or be financially responsible. That is not on the Greens' agenda whatsoever. The Greens have been concerned in issues in the past, such as climate change has been a big issue for them, the reef, saving the reef, and a lot of those social agendas that they believe are the most important things for people in all parts of Australia. So the Greens have done very well in the past, but the Greens aren't the party you'd want if you were looking at cost of living issues in terms of you paying your rent and planning and those types of things, because basically they have no idea on running a budget and don't care because they know they will never have to. So the Greens as a party are the terrorist political party, being anti-everything that both major parties, Labor and LNP, stand for, and that appeals to a certain market, and particularly the issues they've had in the past have appealed in the past to a younger generation. They've got no answers for youth crime. They have no answers for the health system. They can say silly things like, "Oh, we'll make everything free. Oh, we'll make all housing free. Oh, we'll make, everything free," and be negative about any other positive step that governments try to take. And I'm calling both the Labor and the LNP parties. But unfortunately, the Greens are just negative, and hopefully this election coming forward will see a focus back on the reality of cost of living, interest rate rise, mortgage payments, the youth crime in the area, a broken health system, and certainly the lack of housing planning, because Greens love stopping everything in terms of housing and those sorts of things. So what we should do, I suppose, is put some of these homeless people in all the Greens houses, which we Green voters' houses, and they can help that way. So, the Greens are a party of negativity, and I'm hoping that this time the Queensland public will realise that, and particularly the younger generation, and even some in my near family have been espousing the Greens policies. So hopefully they'll come back to reality and know that it's a negative party, and we have to be positive in this election coming up on the 26th of October for Queensland, because it's very, very important for the future of everybody that we don't keep racking up this massive debt, up to about $150 billion now, and even the interest payments on that are climbing. They'll be up around the $7 billion at least next financial year, and that builds a lot of hospitals and schools, roads, etc., that is just wasted on paying interest payments on heavy borrowings for the Queensland public.
Ray, thanks for your time. Once again, look forward to your returning. A reminder, incidentally, people, that the program you've just heard is available on demand almost immediately on the 4CRB website, 4CRB.com.